Hey fellas, hope you guys doing great. In today's video we will see, what if Naruto was the vessel of harmony and built harem with ponies? Part 1. Huge shout out to NoxraaTorgan. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe and like the video. So let's start the story. The sun had set more than an hour ago, and the moon shone brightly across Equestria. Ponies had given thanks to Princess Luna for protecting them while they slumbered and had retired for the night. All except for the princess and the night watch of Canterlot Castle. The guards were on their toes, hooves, since the incident with the royal wedding. They felt that they had collectively disappointed Captain Shining Armor, and now had to remain vigilant against another threat that might come their way. 2 guards stood outside the Vault of the Elements, waiting for their relief to come along. They knew that guarding the vault was important, but in their minds any pony who tried to take the elements of harmony was a fool. So to pass the time they made light conversation. Their chit-chat ended when out of nowhere both princesses appeared in front of them. "Where is the intruder?" The taller of the two, Princess Celestia, asked hurriedly. Her statement caught both guards by surprise. "What intruder, your highness?" the one on the left of the door asked. It was Princess Luna, who responded. "After the incident with Discord, we placed a security spell on the inside to let us know when someone went into the vault without one of us. That alarm has been tripped. But no pony has been through this way." The guard began to reply but was brushed off when the horn on Celestia's head shone yellow. The doors into the vault were thrown open and the royal sisters charged in. Confused, the 2 at the door followed after, but were unable to catch up with their sovereigns. Suddenly a great groaning sound filled the air. Not groans of pain but of metal bending out of position. All present stopped in awe at the sight before them. Some manner of 2-legged beast dressed in a long black hooded coat had its upper limbs extended out to the doors that hid the elements of harmony at the end of the hall of stained glass windows. Plaster cracked and dust fell as both doors were torn from their places. The destroyed doors floated in the air, held there by what could only be assumed to be magic, except there was no usual magical aura surrounding them. With a quick motion of the intruder, the doors dropped with a loud clang to the floor. Apparently the intruder hadn't noticed them, and the 2 princesses decided to take advantage of that. "Halt!" Princess Luna called as she fired a bolt of magic at her target. The intruder turned around to face the one who had interrupted and raised a hand. "S. Repsid!" A male voice filtered through a metal mask that hid his face from those present. The stream of Luna's magic hit his outstretched hand, and to all ponies' surprise promptly broke apart into tiny dust particles. "Striking when my back is turned? How very cowardly, and I thought you Equestrians prided yourselves on your honor. Or is that the dragons the next kingdom over?" the man goaded. Trying to intervene, Celestia stepped forward. "How did you get in here, intruder?" "How else would I get in? Intruder window," the man replied, laughing at his own joke. "Laugh while you can, you are outnumbered," Luna said, recovering from the shock of seeing her magic dealt with so easily. "You may have the advantage with numbers, my dear princess, but you are all tragically outclassed. Feel grateful that I did not come here for a fight. Yats?" The 2 guard ponies were about to charge the intruder when suddenly their bodies froze in place, mid-stride. Shocked and concerned, Celestia's tone changed to concern. "What did you do to them?" "Proved a point. Now if you excuse me, I have some very important work to do and you are wasting my time." With a crosswise motion of the intruder's limb, a line drew itself in the floor in front of the sisters and now statuesque guards. A shimmer of light rose up to the ground, indicating that a barrier spell was now in place to keep them from interrupting what was going to happen next. The man turned to the now destroyed vault and reached out his arms like he was going to give a large hug. "Sinamra Seacroft and Mock Trough." The box that held the precious elements opened and the 6 gems shaped like 6 particular ponies' cutie marks drifted into the air. They took the positions that the 2 sisters remembered them being in when they rested in the Tree of Harmony. From within the folds of the man's coat, a single glass ball that could have easily rested in the palm of his hand drifted between him and the suspended elements. "Srawap foitsino, it lay all, Rethwell, itisreneg, Semnik, Sigam, Nel ruith gem otia tnavras fo8 durao otith gif 8 nimox sankrad." The elements began to glow, bathing the vault in a rainbow of color. Tendrils of magic seeped from the most powerful sources of magic in Equestria and drifted to the glass ball, filling it with Harmony's magic. What is your intent with that power? It will never work for someone with evil intentions, Celestia pointed out to the man in the midst of his ritual. Then it is a good thing that my intentions are pure, came the reply as the flow of magic into the sphere cut off. Ot8 Reto Drau Ylef. The orb was encased in a white glow before vanishing from existence. As soon as the orb was gone, the barrier keeping the princesses away from the intruder dropped. The two sisters only hesitated a moment before rushing the stranger who didn't even acknowledge their oncoming assault. Chancing it, Luna and Celestia charged their horns with magic and blasted the man who hadn't moved since the barrier fell. The two beams of alicorn magic made contact and caused a small explosion. The coat fell apart, dumping what appeared to be sand all over the place. The metal mask was sent clattering to the floor several feet away. The 6 elements fell to the ground and the spell that held the 2 guard ponies broke. Not paying much attention to the dazed guards, Luna trotted over to the mask and levitated it up to her eye level. Such an odd design. The mask had 6 comma marks that formed a circle around the face with strange symbols that resembled the markings of the Japanese of the Far East. Turning the mask over, she was met with another surprise. Sister, what do you make of this? Showing her elder sister the glowing image of an alicorn's face, the elongated horn suggested that the pony face on the back didn't belong to just any unicorn. Celestia just shook her head. None of this is making any sense. Some pony with enough might to dispel an attack from you. Luna breaks in here to perform a ritual, but that intruder turns out to be made of sand? I have never heard of such magic. Perhaps I shall ask Twilight to help me find any reference in the Ponyville library. Sister, what do we do about this? Luna asked, motioning to the mess and destroyed vault. Celestia rubbed her chin with her hoof for a moment before shrugging. We tell no pony about what happened with the elements. If word gets out, there might be panic. In the morning we close the vault off and say it is undergoing renovations. And we keep that mask under lock and key. Who knows what kind of residual magic might reside in that thing, or who it really belongs to. Scene change. A certain oppressive feeling hung on the air. Not humidity. Even for a region that was in a semi-tropic climate, the village of Kanagakure didn't experience this kind of humidity in October. The feeling that clung to the air was the leftover raw chakra of the Kyubi no Kitsune that had attacked the village not even a full 3 days ago. For the civilians, it meant a lot of clean-up and repair work. The remaining shinobi force had to double their efforts in patrolling the village to prevent any enemy attack. Hospital staff was working overtime dealing with the wounded. However, there was one place that was being closely guarded by 2 of the finest that the Hidden Leaf Village has to offer, the ANBU. This place was the neonatal ward. There was only one infant occupying the ward, a blonde-haired baby boy with little whisker marks on his cheeks. The infant's sleep was undisturbed when a hole in the fabric of reality opened up and a figure dressed in a black coat stepped out before it closed. The light in the room was dim, but it was enough to glint off the metal mask he wore. Close behind him floated a glass orb filled with a rainbow of colors, putting on a psychedelic display. In a voice that had just sounded in a world away, he pointed to the sleeping child. Dies fo namra, what sebrui nisilb nope 8 nesict like? The glowing orb floated over to the sleeping baby. Hovering over the infant's navel, the ball started depositing its multicolored contents. The streams of light flowed like water trickling down a rock face before entering the child. Upon contact with the babe's skin, an odd pattern appeared, a swirl with some form of writing. Ah, the seal of the Reaper. You are a credit to your profession, Minato Namikaze. This seal was expertly crafted and is well suited for my purpose. The figure thought to himself. If only you were around, my friend, to see what will transpire. By the time these thoughts had transpired, the orb had finished depositing the force that it held. Suddenly 6 gray armored figures dropped from the roof. Step away from the Kyubi. One of the figures spoke. Instead of obeying, the masked man stood there. You are not the ANBU. My guess is you belong to Danzo's Little Root Project. Shame you will not be able to tell your master about this encounter. At these words, a small whine emanated from the floating orb. The man snapped his fingers and all the root agents had a brief sensation that something was being pulled from them before they hit the floor. The orb took on a light blue glow, signifying that it was now full of new energy. In a white flash, the orb vanished. The masked man reached into the confines of his coat and pulled out a small plush toy. It was a lavender-colored unicorn with wings. On each side of its flank there was a 6-pointed star with 6 similar white stars surrounding it. The man placed the toy with the infant before turning to the window. "Good luck, Naruto." With that, the man vanished into the night. Dear Princess Celestia, things here in Ponyville have quieted down tremendously. My friends and I still get summoned by the map to spread the magic of friendship across Equestria, but the actual goings-on in the town is much slower. Although we do have to thank Discord for keeping the days from becoming truly boring, he knows when to pop up to keep us from going out of our minds. My attempts to convince Sunset Shimmer to return to Equestria for a visit have proved successful. She promised that she would be visiting a week from now. We agreed on an afternoon tea, 3 o'clock. You are invited as well. I am sure that you would like some time to catch up with her. Now, there is the matter that you entrusted me. There are a few more tests that I would like to subject the mask to before I declare that I do not know what it is. There seems to be some residual magic of some sort hanging around it, even after all these years. It feels much like when the holes between Equestria and Canterlot High were being ripped open. My other self is still apologizing for that whole affair. I believe that the relic has something to do with interdimensional travel. Hopefully Starlight and I will have an answer by tea time in a week. Your faithful former student, Twilight Sparkle, Princess of Friendship. They're all done. Spike! The Lavender Alicorn Princess called out for her faithful assistant dragon, but the Drake was not there. Probably with Rarity. Oh well, guess I'll just have to do this myself. With a flare of magic in one movement, the letter was bound with a red cord and vanished into thin air. So glad I learned that spell, Twilight thought aloud. Sparing a moment, Twilight looked down at the photos on the desk she had been sitting at. So many wonderful memories smiled back at her, from the first group photo that her friends took together through all their adventures that had taught her so much about friendship. There were more than 6 years of memories displayed in front of her. However, she was slightly saddened when she started getting closer to more recent photos. The unicorn turned alicorn frowned as she watched her figure change over the course of the photos. Before her ascension to alicorn she had stopped growing, but it would seem that the power flowing through her now is causing her to grow more towards the stature of her mentor. Her mane was also becoming ethereal, with star sparkles flashing occasionally. However, Princess Celestia promised that these features wouldn't become overbearing in their appearance until later in life, but they were still enough to set her apart from most ponies. Her contemplation was interrupted when the door to her chamber opened. In stepped a unicorn with a pink coat and a predominantly purple mane with a blue streak running through it. Hey Twilight, the lab is all set up. Thanks Starlight. Thanks again for helping with this. No problem. But I still don't know what this is. Standing up from her desk, Twilight levitated a nearby saddlebag over her back and walked out into the main hall. I was entrusted with a special research project from the princesses, an artifact from an otherworldly being. This got Starlight's attention. Another world? How is that possible? Starlight asked as they headed for the castle's laboratory. I'm not sure. According to the princesses, our world was visited in the time before the mirror to Canterlot High opened up, but from their description, the visitor sounds like a human. The two ponies arrived at the lab. After bolting the door shut from the inside, Twilight removed the item from inside, a metal mask encased in transparent crystal. Culturists have been able to place the symbols as strikingly similar to Japanese kanji. If it is the same language, then we have earth, heaven, forest, light, darkness, and gate. It radiates a kind of time-space energy, just like when those holes in the sky were being ripped open by my human counterpart. Why is it encased in crystal? Twilight became very serious. Because the power residing in this mask has driven more than one pony researcher insane being around it. The crystal is able to block the mask's ambient effects, but apparently you shouldn't look it in the eyes for very long. That is what drove the researchers insane. Starlight forced a laugh before turning away from the mask. So what are we going to do? First, let's look over the finds of the other researchers. I'm sure that we can find something that they missed," Twilight said, placing the mask down on a pedestal away from where they were working. The two ponies got talking about the findings of past researchers, not noticing the eyes of the mask beginning to glow. A small crack formed in the crystal casing, then another, and another. The cracks spider webbed their way all across the surface of the containment crystal. As each crack formed, a strange voice entered the room. Inaudible at first, but it grew louder and louder. Nika 8 rewap fo8 snagna. Tnargate nesik eno 8 tfig tadide lo. Tnargre 8 rewap ot sap odni nitabenai. Tel raid nif 8 sinamra lesiv. Tel raid nif 8 like. This phrase repeated itself over and over again. At first the chanting went unnoticed by the working Maras. Their own voices covered over the chanting and the cracking crystal. Eventually both ponies' ears twitched and looked at each other. "Do you hear that?" they asked simultaneously. Crack! The containment crystal around the artifact shattered completely. Tiny pieces of the crystal flew across the room, but more than a few large chunks hung in orbit around the now free mask. The artifact levitated from its place and turned its gaze upon the lavender alicorn. Both Maras were a mix of scared and brave, trying to think of a spell that might work against the mask. However, none were coming to mind. With a sudden pulse of power, Starlight was thrown from Twilight. "Starlight!" she cried to her friend. The chunks of crystal floating around the mask turned into molten energy. The substance flew toward the Princess of Friendship, slinking toward her like snakes through the air. She backed away from the incoming tendrils, but it was getting harder for her mind to register the incoming energy as a threat. Her flank hit the wall behind her, and she came to a complete stop. The burning light completely obscured her vision as it began to encircle her. At this, Twilight felt very light-headed and oppressing against her mind. It was standing up too fast and having your head stuck in a vice grip. In the midst of her sensory bombardment, Twilight swore she saw someone standing in the burning light. A human form, their features greatly distorted by the light that they seemed to be a part of. But if Twilight actually saw anyone in the flaming energy, it was only for a brief instant. Starlight was coming around from the blast that had thrown her away from Twilight. She couldn't bring herself to stand up yet, so she had to lay and watch as the energy surrounded the princess. The burning power grew brighter and brighter until she could no longer look without her eyes hurting. Even behind her scrunched eyelids the light was intense. The chanting that emanated from the mask pounded against her brain until she was certain she could recite the strange speaking by heart. Without warning, there was a crash like thunder, and then silence. Starlight opened her eyes just in time to see the mask falling. When it made contact with the ground, instead of banging against the crystal floor and bouncing, it shattered like pottery. Breaking into small chunks and dust, the mysterious and obviously powerful artifact ceased to exist. Starlight's mind was racing. "Metal should not do that," she said to Twilight, but was no response. Worried, the unicorn turned her head to where Twilight was supposed to be. "Oh no! Twilight! Spike! Any pony!" Starlight cried as she hurried to her hooves and out the door. She did not know what happened in the light, but there was one thing that she was certain of: Twilight's sparkle was gone. Twilight wasn't sure what had happened. One moment she was surrounded by light after the mask had activated, there was a great sound like thunder. Now she was standing outside, and she was feeling a little nauseous. "Okay, I hope I will never to do that again. Checklist, hooves?" Twilight looked down at the ground and was relieved to see that she still had 4 hooves. "Yes." "Wings?" "Check." "Horn?" "Yep, still there." "Magic?" Great relief washed over her as her horn lit up with her magical aura. "Thank goodness. Now where am I?" The princess looked around and found herself in some sort of fenced-in yard. Grass was looking a bit overgrown and the flower pots riddled with weeds. The 2-story house in front of her looked more than a little worn. Paint was peeling off and the windows were covered with dust. Deciding to investigate, Twilight approached the old house. "It doesn't look like anyone has been home for a while. Wonder who lived here?" Twilight grabbed hold of the knob on the front door with her magic and pulled. As expected, it was locked. Twilight turned her attention to the filthy window. As she made her way to the window, her hoof caught on something in the grass. Curious, Twilight brought her head down and parted the grass with her magic. There, sticking out of the ground, was a 3-pronged dagger. Its handle was disproportionately longer than the blades and inscribed with some kind of what Twilight believed to be a magical formula. "What is this?" "Halt!" a mare's voice cut in. A knife barely missed Twilight's head by just millimeters. Frightened, Twilight reared her head back and blindly aimed a reflexive magical bolt. The bolt missed its intended target, but must have found another because a stallion's voice cried out in pain. "That's it, take it down," the first voice said. Twilight finally was able to take in the sight of 4 humans in animal masks and gray armor surrounding her. "Wait," Twilight pleaded. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt anybody." The 4 humans were taken aback by her plea and hesitated. The woman that had spoken earlier leveled another knife at Twilight. "State your name, affiliation, and reason for being here," she demanded. Twilight recomposed herself and stood tall as she introduced herself. "I am Twilight Sparkle, Equestrian Princess of Friendship. I was sent here by a strange artifact that one of my friends and me were investigating. I do not know where I am or if I can get home," Twilight explained to the humans around her. "Tell me, is Canterlot High anywhere near here?" "Canterlot High? What nonsense is that?" the man that she had hit earlier asked, the pain that he was in still evidenced in the slight cringe in his voice. "Perhaps the summons arrived here accidentally, and this Canterlot is a landmark in her homeland?" one of the others postulated. "How do we know that this creature is not working with IWA or one of our other enemies? I mean, look at where we are. If this was enemy espionage, they wouldn't have made such a loud noise when arriving. That thunderclap was loud enough to be heard from the capital city," the female responded. She returned the knife to a holster on her thigh before bowing. "Our apologies, Princess Sparkle. Please just call me Twilight. All of my friends do." "Ma'am," one of the other warriors interjected. "With all due respect, she could very well be an enemy to the village. We ought to take her to headquarters and have her questioned." "Quiet bird. When you have been in the ANBU as long as I have, you know how to identify both enemy and friend. The princess here is no threat to us, although I do find her title to be a bit strange." "Princess of Friendship?" she asked with what could be amounted to a confused glance from behind her mask. "It is a very long story, one that I would gladly share with whoever is in charge." The 4 humans glanced at each other before nodding. "Very well. We shall take you, Lord Hokage. Follow us." The ANBU led Twilight from the yard. One of the ANBU waited a brief moment behind his comrades. Without being seen, he picked up the dagger that the pony had forgotten in the confusion before hurrying to catch up with his group. Twilight was led from the abandoned house through a village filled with humans. She felt very strange, about as strange as when she had first traveled to Canterlot High to get her crown back. Only this time she wasn't a human, she was a lavender pony with wings and a horn. This was more than enough cause to turn the heads of the villagers. As they walked through the streets, Twilight took notice of the signs that hung on the outside of buildings. She really wasn't much of a culturist, even when she was Princess Celestia's personal student. However, from what she could see, the signs were written in the common scripts of the Japanese. Odd, a world with no apparent connection to Equestria developed a written language so similar to one back home. "Wait, home? How am I to get home?" she thought to herself. Unknown to her, or the care of the ANBU, a small blonde-haired boy was watching the procession. His blue eyes widened when he caught sight of the alicorn. No way could that be. He had to make sure before he approached the ANBU. He quickly left the alley that he was hiding in and hurried to a rundown portion of the village. He ran up a few flights of stairs before reaching an apartment door. Extracting the key from his pocket, the boy hurried inside the extremely messy apartment and to the bedroom. Reaching under the bed, he found a loose floorboard and lifted it up. He only had to probe the space under the floor for just a moment before he brought up the item that he sought. No one was sure where it had come from, the little plush horse. Naruto Uzumaki had it since he was an infant. It was always assumed that a member of the hospital staff had given it to him, but none of the nurses or doctors came forward to claim responsibility for the act of charity to the whiskered boy. The lavender color had faded from the toy and spots of dirt stained parts of the fur and mane. However, there was no mistaking the remarkable similarities between the toy and the horse that he had just seen. He had to talk to her, he just had to. Tucking the toy between his arms, he dashed out of the apartment, only pausing a moment to close and lock the door behind him. Meanwhile, Twilight Sparkle had been led through the streets of Konohagakure, as she learned it was called, to the tower that rested directly beneath a great cliff. The most noteworthy aspect of the cliff was the 4 giant faces carved into the rock. Twilight made a mental note to ask someone about who the people were. Navigating the stairs upward, Twilight and her escort ended up in a long twisting hall somewhere near the top. They then went to a door that was located perfectly at the halfway point. "Wait here, please," was the command given to Twilight by her escort. So Twilight Sparkle waited outside the door, left alone to her thoughts. Hopefully their leader will believe my story. How am I supposed to get home? Why here? Why of all the possible worlds or even timelines did I end up here? This was what her thoughts were like while she waited for this, Hokage. Eventually the door opened up and the masked woman actually, nodded to Twilight. "You may come in now, princess." Instead of insisting to be called Twilight, the Princess of Friendship accepted the fact that some beings in existence were too polite to ever not call someone by their appropriate title. Twilight entered the office. The guards that escorted her took up positions on either side of a big redwood desk. Sitting behind the desk was a wrinkled old man wearing white robes. A red and white hat sat upon his head. A polite smile spanned his face as he nodded his head in greeting. "Welcome to the Hidden Leaf Village. I am Hiruzen Sarutobi, Hokage and leader of the village." Twilight bowed back to him. "I am Twilight Sparkle, the Equestrian Princess of Friendship." "So, Princess Sparkle, what can I do for you?" "You see, sir, I am afraid that I have accidentally found myself in your world with no way back." Twilight then proceeded to give a brief explanation about the incident with the mask and just a little about Equestria. After her story was finished, Hiruzen thought deeply for a moment, his brow furrowed in contemplation. After a while the old Hokage spoke up. "Princess, are you sure?" The Hokage never got to finish that sentence. For right in the middle of it, the entire world shook. A tremendous wham boom filled the air, knocking out glass windows and knocking everyone and every pony flat. The thing that was most surprising though was that with the shockwave of sound, there was a wave of rainbow-colored light. This phenomena did not go unnoticed by the pony princess. A sonic rain boom? But how? Rainbow Dash? Her theory was quickly crushed when another wave of power washed over the village, one that she didn't think she would feel ever again. The elements of harmony? Without waiting another moment, Twilight got to her hooves and was out the now shattered window, flying towards the epicenter, a convenient but worrying ball of sparking energy. Naruto ran through the streets, hurrying to the old man's office. He just had to meet the horse who looked so much like his toy. The prized possession was still tucked in his arms. He turned a blind corner and ran headlong into the tall form of an adult. "Sorry, sir," the young boy apologized. However, the apology was lost on the man. The older man in question had been guzzling down his who knows which bottle of sake for the day. He had the rim of the bottle to his lips when the eager boy ran into him. The sudden impact caused the less than sober man to jerk the bottle, and the sudden change in the bottle's altitude sent the liquid spilling down the face of drunkard. Needless to say, this did little to improve his mood. In fact, this made him livid. "Watch where you are running, you brat!" The man had cleared the drink sufficiently from his eyes and saw just who it was that ran into him. This man once was a shop owner, and then the shop was crushed under the foot of the Kyuubi. This man was never a shinobi, as such he did not understand sealing arts. He did not understand that the boy in front of him was not the demon that had destroyed his livelihood and his life. He just saw the demon in human form that had made him spill his sake. "You wretched demon! You take my home, my business, my source of income, wasn't enough for you? Now you have to make me spill my sake all over me?" The man's angered words were slightly slurred, but his drunken rage was clear enough. The small boy did the only thing that he could think of: run. The plan would have worked, if the boy's shirt was not immediately seized by the drunkard. You aren't getting away that easily! He roared and threw Naruto into the wall. Naruto curled up into a defensive ball on the ground as an onslaught of kicks began. With each kick there came a profane insult from the man, mostly tied with the words, "Demon, brat, fox," and "murderer." A small gathering of people came around and cheered on the man and his abuse to the village pariah. There was no help coming. No one was coming to help him. Naruto clung for dear life to the toy in his arms, failing to hold back the tears as they came down from his eyes. Please, make him stop. He didn't know who he was directing these thoughts to, but these were still his pleas. A strange fire began to burn within Naruto's stomach. This strange warm sensation grew in intensity until it was the only feeling that Naruto could register. Even the kicks from his tormentor were no longer perceivable. On the outside a rainbow aura shrouded the lad, making all those who still had half a mind to stand back. What is that? Is it the demon? No, this is different. For goodness sakes, man, stop! Came the cries from the villagers who were now afraid of the growing light show and the strange sensation that accompanied it. However, the assaulter was either too drunk or far too idiotic to notice the veil of power emanating from the boy. That is, until a high-pitched whining filled the air. What the dash? Wham boom! A tremendous shockwave of rainbow light exploded from the boy, throwing everyone who was close by into buildings. The drunk who had unwittingly set off the explosion unfortunately caught full blast of the rain boom and never saw the sun set that day. The thing that got people afraid though was when Naruto began to levitate, still in a defensive curl and eyes closed tight. That was when lightning started sparking off him. A ball of white light that radiated some kind of power that felt nothing like chakra formed around Naruto. The sphere grew until it took up most of the street that his abuse had taken place on. Somehow oblivious to the display of power, Naruto was filled with the memories of his treatment at the hands of the village. All of the abuse, lonely nights, and insults, just wishing that there was someone who he could look to. Help, please. From the sky above, Twilight sparkle landed a few feet away from the magical epicenter. She could make out the shape of a child in the midst of the mystic sphere. I've got to help them, but how? Twilight thought. Then all at once it hit her, this is just like when I got my cutie mark. And if the princess method worked then, it should work now. Gathering up her courage, she walked straight into the sphere. Passing through the wall of pure magic was like walking into your home after being away for so long, a kind of welcome feeling. This really was the power of the elements of harmony as they were several years ago when they were used by Twilight and her friends to deal with some of the biggest threats of their time. She never thought she would feel them like this again, so close to harmony. But, at the center of it all, she felt sadness. Twilight turned her attention to the child and spied the blonde form of a boy curled up around something. From what she could tell, this boy was both the origin of both the power of harmony and the sadness. As Twilight came closer to the child, she began to hear gentle sobs. Should I say something? Twilight asked herself. A different idea presented itself in her head, and for one reason or another, she chose to go with that one. She quietly walked to the boy and took him in her forelegs. She then proceeded to shield him from the outside world by wrapping her wings around him. Naruto snapped out of his shock when he felt something warm and soft press up against him. Horse legs and a set of magnificent lavender wings were wrapped around him. He turned his attention upward and was met with a very kind gaze. It was the lavender horse from before. She found him, she rescued him, she was giving him a hug, he felt safe. He pressed himself into the mare, absorbing all the affection that he could from the embrace. As Naruto calmed, so did the storm of magic that roared around him. Soon there was no sphere of magic surrounding the two. Everyone who remained stared in awe of the creature that had just stopped Naruto's outburst. A short while later, Hiruzen Sarutobi with a contingent of ANBU landed at the scene. The aged Hokage looked on the scene and whispered to himself, "Just who are you, Miss Sparkle?" Meanwhile, on top of the Hokage monument there stood a solitary figure in a dark coat and a mask similar to the artifact that had banished Twilight to this place. Not how I expected the scene to play out, but this works out my favor. Just a little more pushing and things will be as they need to be. Twilight's head and horn hurt as her eyes opened. She was still on the hospital floor. Apparently no one had come to wake her after she fell asleep. She stood up and turned her attention to the sleeping boy. She didn't know if those dreams were visions of the future, but they did wake something inside her. As Twilight looked down at Naruto in his hospital bed, this feeling swelled in her heart. Is this what a mother feels like? She asked herself. This feeling of wanting to give the entire world to the child before her, to protect him from any harm and danger, to make his life the best that she could, to help him achieve his dreams. With a gentle hoof, she brushed a few stray hairs away from his face and kissed his forehead. Don't worry, I will look after you from now on, she said soothingly. It was at that moment Naruto stirred from his sleep. His eyes opened to sight of the lavender hovering over him. It's you. Twilight was slightly startled at his awakening, but her surprise was replaced with a genuine smile. Hi there, my name is Twilight Sparkle. She introduced herself, helping the boy to sit up in the bed so he could be a bit more comfortable. Naruto Uzumaki. Well, Naruto, how do you feel today? The boy rubbed his ribs. A little sore, but I think I will be okay. Then he realized something. My horse. Where is it? He asked in a panic, looking around. Twilight chuckled and walked over to a satchel that rested on one of the chairs. You mean this? Twilight asked, levitating the surprisingly similar replica of her from the bag. Naruto let out a sigh of relief when he saw his prized possession, then he did a double take. Wait, how is it floating? Magic, Naruto, Twilight explained as she brought the toy closer to Naruto. Where I come from, some ponies are capable of magic. With the right amount of study and practice, one would be able to do just about anything. For example, the light around Twilight's horn grew brighter, as did the aura around the toy pony. Naruto watched in awe as the years of dirt and wear vanished from sight. In a matter of moments, the toy alicorn was restored to its original glory. That was an application of restorative magic. Makes repairing broken vases a snap. Naruto's eyes were wide, amazed at what had just happened. That was so cool. Glad you think so. Of course, there are much larger spells and unique abilities. My mentor is able to move the sun and her sister is able to move our moon. This statement only made the boy more excited. That is so awesome. I wish I could do stuff like that. Actually, Naruto, you can, Twilight stated. This statement only confused the blonde boy. Huh? Yesterday, Naruto, I saw you using a great amount of magic. Magic that is just like mine. It will take some time, but if you want, I can teach you how to use it. You mean you want to teach me? The little boy asked curiously. Of course, I haven't seen anyone with as much potential as you. I could see you becoming as great as Star Swirl the Bearded, and he is known as one of the greatest users of magic in the history of Equestria. That's my home, Twilight explained. In other words, Naruto, you could learn to be as strong as me, a new but familiar voice said from the door. Both occupants looked at the entry and saw the kind face of the Hokage. Gramps! Naruto cried excitedly. The old ninja chuckled as he came to take a seat on the other side of the bed from where Twilight stood. So, Princess Twilight, are you serious about taking Naruto as a student? Hiruzen asked the pony. Of course I am. I would be honored to teach him. To this Hiruzen nodded. And you, Naruto? I know that this is all very sudden, but you are being offered something that will help you become strong. Naruto thought for a minute before looking to the old man. Can I still be a ninja like you, Gramps? We will just need to check to see if your magic will permit you to use chakra still, but I see no reason why you can't be a ninja. Twilight wasn't sure what this world's ninja were like, but if it was a dream of her potential student, she would try not to quell it. Princess Twilight, may I have a word with you in private? Sure, Twilight responded. Try and get some rest, Naruto. We'll be back in a bit, the Hokage told Naruto, who dutifully slinked back under the bedsheets. The two grown-ups proceeded to leave the room and into a private waiting room. Princess Twilight, you must understand that there are circumstances around Naruto's birth that make him an important figure to the village's future. This new power of his and your desire to teach him makes things more complicated. How so? Twilight asked. For starters, you are an unknown foreign power. Well, your home world is. If Naruto were any other child, then certain members of the village council would not be opposed to you teaching him. What about Naruto sets him apart from every other foal? Twilight asked, a little agitated. She always hated the political plays made by the Canterlot ponies. It was bad enough when she was Celestia's personal student, but with her ascension to the title of princess, members of the noble class would seek her favor for a bill they were trying to get Celestia to pass. That was why she liked to spend more time in Ponyville than up in Canterlot. Now there were political hoops to jump through here as well. To be honest, she realized that she should have expected this. Hiruzen looked conflicted until he nodded to himself. Princess, what I am about to tell you are counted among the village's highest secrets. I tell you these things in good faith between Equestria and the Hidden Leaf Village as potential allies, and unless I say otherwise, not a word of this is to be repeated to anyone, not even Naruto. Twilight indicated that she understood before he continued. Naruto's parentage, if it were made known, could make him a target to the other hidden villages. His father was the fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze. Minato made many enemies who would not hesitate to attack Naruto if his existence was known. To hide him, he uses his mother's maiden name of Uzumaki. What happened to his parents, sir? Hiruzen was dreading this topic. 6 years ago, a demon attacked the village, a giant nine-tailed fox which we call the Kyubi no Kitsune. Minato fought against the demon, but a being such as the Kyubi could not be killed by conventional means. So, Minato preformed a sealing technique that bound the demon in the body of a newborn child. Not missing a beat, Twilight realized. Naruto. Yes. Naruto's parents died stopping the demon. They wished Naruto to be seen as a hero to the village, but that has not always been the case. I have done what I can to ensure that Naruto be able to live life the best I can, but those who know the truth only see him as the demon. The unfinished work of Minato that they wished to see ended. The newfound maternal instincts that Twilight was feeling suddenly kicked into overdrive. She no longer wanted to just teach Naruto. No, she wanted to get him back to Equestria and raise him there. Never to bring him back to the place that wanted to see him dead. In her anger, she must have triggered her magic cause when her temper flared and nearby vase shattered. Seeing the sudden protectiveness of the powerful being before him, Hiruzen attempted to placate her. I know, Princess, and I do not tolerate such behavior from my villagers. That is why I wish to see Naruto end up with someone who will treat him like any child deserves. You bet I will. I will take him as my own son and raise him to the best of my own ability. Good. I was hoping you would say that. At this, Hiruzen presented the paper that the clerk had given him earlier. This is an excerpt from a law that was established when this village was first formed. The law ensured that any clan that was established here was given full rights and protections, including the right to proper guardianship. The village council is unfortunately biased against Naruto, and has made it so that none of the civilian population will adopt him. As for the already established shinobi families, any move on their part to take the boy as one of their own would be seen as an act of aggression. How would... Believe it or not, this is not the first case of a demon like the Kyubi being sealed in a human host. There are 8 other demon spirits out there, collectively called the Biju. Hidden villages seal them within human hosts so that the host can draw upon the chakra, the power, of their tenant. These humans are then called Jinchuriki. So to answer your question, any shinobi that is seen trying to adopt him would be seen as trying to secure the power of the fox for their own purpose. However, now that he has shown a power unique to him and hopefully any future posterity, he falls under the Protection Act, thus allowing him to have someone, or perhaps some pony, to look after him as long as Naruto retains a degree of fealty to the village. You mean that I can adopt him? You can, as long as he promises to become a ninja. I would also like to open up a relationship between the Land of Fire and Equestria, to help appease the more narrow minds of the council. Twilight only had to think for a minute. I think that once I establish that I have a method home, I can find a way to bring some pony who can make those kinds of agreements on behalf of Equestria. Until then, I think that we can consider each other friends. The Hokage and the princess reached out and shook on the agreement. Why don't you go tell Naruto the good news and I will work on drawing all the needed paperwork together? For once this will be a batch of paperwork that I will do gladly. Twilight beamed. A part of her was unsure where all this pent-up motherly love was coming from, but she was getting a new student and a son, so she took it all in stride. I will go tell him the good news. Things in Equestria were hectic. It had been 6 days since Twilight had disappeared in a lab accident, and there was no trace of her. The Royal Guard were conducting patrols around Equestria, and every able-bodied pony was being asked to contribute in the search for the missing Princess of Friendship. 5 ponies in particular were in a bind. Applejack, Fluttershy, Pinkie Pie, Rarity, and Rainbow Dash were working with the Royal Sisters and Starlight Glimmer analyzing the castle to see what they could find. Even though Rainbow Dash thought her time could be better spent with the other Wonderbolts in the search, but she had been ordered to wait in Ponyville in case she returned. With nothing productive due, she was never much of one for egghead stuff. The Cyan Pegasus paced the halls of Twilight's castle, being extremely loud about her displeasure. This is so lame. We could be out there helping the search and we're stuck here, she complained to her farmer friend Applejack. The Orange Earth pony let out a sigh of her own frustration. We know, Sugar Cube, we know. How do you think I feel? I have relatives all over Equestria looking for Twee. Heck, even Apple Bloom is being more active in the search than I am right now. The only thing that we can do now is wait for some pony to find something. As if on cue, a nearby set of doors were thrown open, and there stood the Pink Earth pony aptly named Pinkie Pie. I found something, she loudly declared. The 2 ponies looked at her expectantly, only for Pinkie to produce a trombone seemingly from nowhere. My old trombone, I thought I left it here. She then proceeded to start playing on said brass instrument. She didn't get 5 notes, and when Rainbow Dash hoofed the instrument away from her pink friend. Now is not the time, Pinkie. Twilight is missing and we have no idea where she might be. Let's take another look, Pinkie said as she took off at her iconic ridiculous speed down the hall. She's not here, Pinkie said, opening a set of doors. She then proceeded to the next set of doors down the hall. Not here. Then to next set of doors. Not here. Not here. Her voice carried on down the hall as she disappeared from sight. Applejack gave a small sigh. Don't let Pinkie get to you, Dash. This is just how she's dealing with Twee's disappearance. She's just being Pinkie Pie, she consoled Rainbow Dash. The Pegasus took a calming breath before responding. I know, Applejack. I just can't stay cooped up here in the castle while other ponies are out looking for our best friend. Meanwhile, down the hall with Pinkie Pie, the pink mare was still going through room by room. Nope, negative, absolutely not. All of a sudden, she had a strange tingling sensation run throughout her body. The impact this had on her muscles was astounding, for it made her shake like a baby shaking a rattle. Oh, this time is different. But where is it? The map room. Like lightning she shot down the halls, following what her instincts told her to do. The other 2 members of Twilight's circle of close friends, Rarity the fashionista and Fluttershy the animal caretaker, were taking turns watching the friendship map in case by some miracle Twilight's location would be revealed. With those 2 ponies was a very agitated young drake, Spike. He had taken Twilight's disappearance the hardest. The purple dragon paced anxiously around, occasionally scratching where his budding wings were sprouting on his back. The tension was thick enough that someone could cut it with a knife. All of a sudden Pinkie burst into the room. Hi every pony! Her sudden interruption sent the room's occupants into a panic. Rarity nearly fell out of her chair, where Fluttershy quickly hid behind hers. Spike let out a surprise yelp and let out a burst of green fire. Was that really necessary, darling? You gave Fluttershy quite the scare, Rarity gently scolded. Oops, sorry Flutters, Pinkie apologized. It's no problem, Pinkie. Sorry. I had this doozy just now and I felt it would be happening here in the map room, Pinkie explained to her 2 friends. Without another word, Pinkie pranced to her place and sat down. With eyes wide she stared at the map. The other occupants could swear they heard the tick-tock of a clock, even though there was no clock to be seen. After a few seconds of this, Pinkie cried out. How long is this going to take? All at once the map of Equestria started to bubble and shimmer until it turned into a sea of energy. All ponies and dragon present all let out a shout of surprise, but then fell silent at what they saw next. Something began to rise from the map, a very familiar something. Twilight! Every pony shouted. Sure enough, on the map table there was a lavender-colored alicorn with a very recognizable cutie mark. At the moment she had a wing wrapped protectively around something, but at the moment that was secondary to the fact that Twilight was home. Without waiting a moment, Pinkie beset her in a tight hug, tears jetting out of her eyes like a drinking fountain. "We were so worried about you," she sobbed out. "Darling, where in Equestria have you been? We've been worried sick," Rarity asked. "Every pony, please calm down. You're startling our guests." A new voice came from the door. Everyone in the room looked to the door and saw the royal sisters and Starlight glimmer. The two royals walked calmly into the room, whereas Starlight hurried to find Applejack and Rainbow Dash. It was at Celestia's comment that made all present in the room to look at the figure that was hidden under Twilight's wing. Twilight smiled and whispered to the one she was holding onto. "It's all right, these are my friends." Very gently Twilight removed her wing to reveal a nervous and slightly bandaged Naruto. The boy looked around at the baffled group of ponies and gave a small wave. "Hi." He was unsure how the ponies would react to him. Would they be nice like Tree-like Mother? Or would they be like the villagers and be mean to him? But if his new mother was friends with them, could they be all that bad? He suddenly found himself in Twilight's mystic aura as she levitated him down from the table. She followed shortly after, making sure he was safe on the ground. "Everyone, I would like to introduce Naruto Uzumaki. He is my new personal protege and my adopted foal." The collective reaction was immediate. "What?" It was about an hour later after Twilight's return, and every pony, plus the human and the dragon, were gathered in the lounge. Every seat and cushion was occupied as everyone waited for Twilight to explain what happened to her. Twilight occupied a large pillow on the floor and had Naruto tucked under her wing again, encouraging him to rest. Celestia noticed how protective her former student was being of the boy and decided to bring it up to her later. With Naruto tucked under her wing, being lulled into a blissful state by his new mother's presence and her warm wing, Twilight began her story. When she got to the part about the power of the elements being within Naruto, those that had wielded the power before took a surprised gasp, while Celestia and Luna shared a sidelong glance to one another. Intermittently Twilight would make a loving gaze to her new son and rub him gently with her muzzle, reassuring him while he slept. Finally Rainbow asked, Twilight, I know that you're his new mom and everything, but why do you keep doing that?" "Oh, hush up, Dash. I think it is quite sweet," Rarity countered. "A child to love is just what you need, darling." After Flash, she quickly cut herself off, very nearly hitting on a sensitive subject. Twilight visibly flinched and held on to Naruto tighter. "This isn't just for me, Rarity. Something happened yesterday in Konoha. I nearly lost him." "What's you talking about, Sugar Cube?" "Well, I had been with the Hokage, the village leader, for most of the day, finalizing my adoption of Naruto. I told him to his home and start packing what he wanted to take with us to Equestria. When I was finished, I went to go meet him at his apartment when I saw smoke rising from where his apartment was. Not sparing a moment, I hurried to his apartment. The building was engulfed in flames. Naruto said that someone pulled him out of the fire before he was injured too badly, but he did get a few burns. Just knowing that, I almost lost him. I can't let go of him." Fluttershy looked like she was on the verge of tears, and every other conscious occupant looked shocked. "I've already lost Flash. I don't want to lose anyone else." Twilight's circle of friends quickly abandoned their seats and took their friend in a group hug, being very careful not to disturb the sleeping child. Luna cast a sad look to her sister, who returned it. The loss of Flash Century of the Crystal Guard was hard on Twilight. The two of them were enjoying a budding relationship about 2 years ago. Flash was going to request a transfer to Canterlot so he could be closer in case Twilight formed her own guards. However, on an escort mission to Yakiakistan, the ambassador was attacked by a monster by the roadside and the procession was never heard of again. Though Twilight put on a strong face, her mentor knew that her heart was secretly aching. Perhaps this child was just what she needed to mend the broken heart. Leaving her seat, Celestia approached the group of hugging ponies. She got down low and joined in the group embrace. After a minute, the group broke apart, and Twilight smiled at them. Thanks, every pony. It really means a lot. By the way, Twilight, how did you get back? Starlight asked. Oh, well, that whole light show with the mask must have given me the power to move across worlds, at least between Equestria and the Shinobi lands. I don't think it would be a good idea for me to try jumping to other worlds. All I have to do is concentrate on where I want to go and say the word, transverse. It came to me in a dream, if you would believe it. Oh, and Princess, the leader of Konohagakure would like to have a meeting to discuss a treaty between nations. Mostly it is for show, to appease some of the nobility of the village. Well, once you have your new son settled to life here in Equestria, we will need to make a journey to this strange new world. The Hokage actually sounds like an interesting person to meet. Celestia chuckled. By the way, Twilight, who is going to tell them? Huh! Celestia shot her former prize student a cheeky smile. Your parents, of course, and Captain Shining Armor and Cadence. Oh, and Glimmerheart is going to be so excited to meet a new cousin, one that is about her age too. If it were possible for fur to pale, Twilight's coat would have faded a few shades. I hadn't thought about that. Naruto woke up on the pillow, still being sheltered by Twilight. He realized that he must have fallen asleep sitting next to his new mother. He was still getting used to having someone who was willing to keep him close all the time, but he didn't mind that she was a pony. In fact, he thought it was pretty cool. How many other children say that they were rescued by a magical pony princess? Someone that would give him hugs and holds him close while they fell asleep each night. Someone who insisted that he call her mother, mommy, mama, or even just mom. And right now, he was going to enjoy being close to some pony. Twilight must have noticed his stirring because she lifted her wing up a bit and looked down at him. Hi Naruto, how are you feeling? She said with a smile. Naruto rubbed the sleep put of his eyes. Alright, I guess. All of a sudden, a very pink pony was in Naruto's face. Hi there, I'm Pinkie Pie. Your name's Naruto, right? That's a funny name. Do you like parties? What's your favorite flavor of cake? When's your birthday? Would you like to be friends? Naruto's young mind was not able to comprehend what had just happened. It all happened so fast and was so pink. Seeing her new son's confusion, Twilight explained. Naruto, this Pinkie Pie. She is Ponyville's resident party planner. To answer your questions, Pinkie, he's never had a party of his own. His birthday is October the 10th. As for cake, they don't have our kind of cake in the Shinobi lands that I could see. And of course he will be your friend. You're one of his new aunts now. Naruto was shocked a bit at this revelation. True, Twilight had told him about her close friends, but he didn't realize that they would be added into his new family. Pinkie, on the other hand, was having a great internal meltdown. A colt that has never had a party of his own, or had ever eaten cake. This was blasphemy, a transgression against her character that she needed to amend immediately. Without another word, she shot from the room in a pink blur, leaving behind a dust trail and a very confused Naruto. Don't worry about her, Sugar Cube, she's just being Pinkie. Applejack explained. Nice to meet you, little feller, name's Applejack. My family owns sweet apple acres here in Ponyville. You should come on by some time, give you a taste of our sweet apple pie. The orange farm mare playfully messed up his hair, which elicited a small playful laugh from the boy. Next up was Rainbow Dash. Hey Anar, the name's Rainbow Dash. I'm the cool ant. I also happen to be the fastest flyer in all of Equestria, she told the boy, doing a few somersaults in the air to show off for him. Rarity took Rainbow Dash's place and introduced herself next. Hello darling, I'm your Aunt Rarity. I am one of Equestria's premier fashion designers. I must say, darling, that I would love to have you come and model for me. You might be the piece of inspiration that I have been waiting for. Rarity then turned her attention to Twilight. You simply must bring him by the shop soon. I must make him his own wardrobe. No nephew of mine is going without a decent set of clothing. A soft whisper caught the fashionista's attention, and she looked back at Naruto. What was that, dear? A bit louder than before, Naruto repeated. Your mane is very pretty. This brought a bright smile to Rarity's face. Oh my, such a compliment. Rarity bent down and gave a small kiss on his cheek. The action brought a tiny blush to Naruto's face. Better be careful, Twilight. When he is old enough, the Maras will have a hard time leaving this gentle colt alone. The comment got a chuckle out of the other ponies in the room but made Twilight pale for the second time that day. She immediately shook her head free of the thought. I don't think we will have to worry about that for a while, Twilight said. Take it from an older sister, Twilight, it happens sooner than you think, Rarity said with a wink. Naruto was very confused at what was going on. When he voiced his concern, Twilight just patted his head and said, When you're older, Naruto. Finally up came a butter-yellow mare with a pink mane. Hi Naruto, I'm Fluttershy, she said in a very calm voice. Oh wow, your whisker marks make you look like a little fox. Seeing a visible flinch from Naruto, she quickly and rather worriedly added, I like animals, Naruto. I just thought that you looking like one made you cute. Her face radiated her concern. She was worried that she just made her surrogate nephew mad at her. Fortunately, Twilight intervened. Auntie Fluttershy didn't mean it like the villagers do, Naruto. She didn't mean to hurt your feelings. Twilight elaborated. Seeing that his new aunt was a nice mare, Naruto got up from his position next to Twilight and did his best to put his arms around the timid Pegasus. It's okay, Auntie Fluttershy. There was a collective ah from the present Maras. Although Rainbow Dash would deny that she did till her dying day. And that just leaves Big Brother Spike, a voice said from the doorway. There stood the purple dragon with green spikes, a small pair of wings protruding from his back. In his claws he held a plate full of cookies and cups full of tea for the older Maras and a thing of juice for Naruto. Thank you, Spike, I don't know what I would do without you, Twilight said as the dragon placed the tray down in the middle of the group. Spike then handed the cup of juice and a cookie to Naruto. Here you go, my little bro Naruto. Spike laughed at his own attempt at rhyming. Apparently it was also amusing to Naruto because he started to laugh as well. It was then and there that Naruto decided that he loved his new family. Some of them might be weird like Pinky, but right now he wouldn't trade them for the world. But then the child noticed something. Where are the other princesses? He asked his mother, taking a bite into the sweet baked good. They had to return to Canterlot. They have to spread the word of my safe return. Starlight Glimmer volunteered to go out and get some needed things for your new room. My room? Naruto was excited at the prospect of having a nice room for once. You bet your sweet little blonde mane, Naruto, Applejack said, taking a long drag from her teacup. True, it ain't going to be anything fancy right now, but as you get older y'all be able to make it any way you want. But you'll still need to have a bed and furniture for your room, Twilight explained before munching into one of the cookies. Naruto nodded to show that he understood at least a little about what the grown-ups were talking about. Oh, that reminds me, Spike. Twilight turned to the dragon. Please make a note to prepare a diplomat room for whenever the Hidden Leaf decides to send a representative with me. Darling, is this world-hopping business going to take a toll on you? I mean, you're an alicorn and can handle the trip, but as far as we can tell you are the only one that can make travel possible. Surely you'll wear yourself out doing trips repeatedly. Rarity voiced her concern to her princess friend. Twilight nodded. Yes, the Hokage, and I thought it would be best if we find a way to duplicate the effects of the mask. Make a more permanent portal, like the one to Canterlot High. However, to give me a resting place and for Equestria to establish an embassy, Lord Sarutobi is looking into any available real estate that can be purchased. It can also serve as Naruto's future family compound. He is the progenitor of a new shinobi clan after all. I have to say, Twilight, that these shinobi sound awesome, Rainbow Dash commented. I can't wait to see how cool your little guy becomes. Naruto blushed a little at the statement. I promise that I will do my best to become the best ninja I can, Naruto declared enthusiastically. This got a positive response from the Tombo. Ah yeah, that's the spirit. Put them there. Dash reached her hoof out for Naruto to hoof bump, but it only elicited a look of confusion from the boy. Twilight whispered in his ear, and then Naruto gave the proper response, a little unsure of himself. Well, Twilight, shall we go introduce the little dear to the rest of Ponyville? It will also do the town good to see that you really are back with us, Rarity suggested. That's a good idea, Rarity. It will also give Pinkie time to get ready. After hurrying with their tea and a few cookies, the troop departed the castle. It only was a short walk from the castle to the town of Ponyville. A few passing ponies noticed the Lavender Princess coming up the road. Hey, look! It's Twilight! One stallion called out. She's back! She's really back! A mare followed. Soon enough there was a growing crowd in front of the heroes of Equestria. It became a din of ponies expressing their relief for their princess's safe return. In the midst of the talking, one of the foals saw something hiding behind Twilight. What in Equestria is that? The child's question got the attention of the adults, who took notice of the strange creature with Twilight and company. Seeing as there was no more prolonging it, Twilight nudged the creature forward so the crowd could get a better look. Every pony, I would like you all to meet Naruto Uzumaki of Konohagakure. He is a human colt that I met during my accidental dimensional travel. He is my new personal student. She then draped a hoof around his shoulder. He is also my adopted foal. There was a 3-second pause. What? Yeah, this was going to take some explanation. For the third time that day, Twilight recounted her story. The assembled populace of Ponyville listened with great intent as their princess told of a world of warriors and of finding a human that was capable of equestrian magic. For many of the assembled ponies, this new life form, a human, scared them. They took courage, however, in that Princess Twilight trusted him. So with a willingness to give him a chance, the crowd dispersed to go back to their lives. Satisfied that they could get on with the tour without much more interruption, the group went on their way into the town. From the shops and homes, ponies would call out to the group, welcoming their princess home. They would also shoot glances at Naruto, but they were not the glances that he was used to. Back in the hidden leaf, the other villagers would focus their gaze full of anger and hate at him. Here, however, the ponies were filled with varying degrees of fascination. Some of them had heard of humans from Twilight's journeys to Canterlot High, but this was the first time any of them had seen an actual human. Many of the ponies who noticed that Naruto caught their gaze waved and said hello to him. Their kindness touched the youth's heart as he and his group walked through the town. He immediately decided that this place was much better than Konoha. Twilight pointed out spots of interest to her son as they walked: Rarity's shop, the Apple Family stand, Sugar Cube Corner, the schoolhouse, town hall, and the site where the town was planning on building a new library. Eventually they made it back to the castle. By that time, Celestia's sun had begun its descent over the west horizon. The Maras were all sharing a knowing glance with each other as they came closer to the castle. Naruto was feeling a bit worn out. The tour around most of Ponyville had taken most of the day, and all this input was a bit taxing on his mind. He was seriously debating to fall asleep where he sat, riding on Twilight's back. The new mother recognized her son's weariness as gave him a little jostle. Try not to fall asleep yet, Naruto. I suspect that Auntie Pinkie Pie has something for you. Are you sure about that, Twilight? Rainbow Dash asked. I mean, I didn't see her at Sugar Cube Corner when we were there. You know Pinkie, Rainbow Dash, Rarity said, won't let the young colt go until she has properly welcomed to Ponyville. True dat, Applejack concurred, but it'll do the little critter some good. By this point Naruto was very confused. What are you all talking about? He asked his new family. You'll see in just a moment, Twilight said as they approached the doors to the castle. The doors slowly opened at first, but then were flung open. Surprise! A cacophonic blast hit the boy's ears, and his eyes beheld the most peculiar sight. There were ponies gathered in the main hall of the castle wearing colored hats. Along the sides of the hall there were tables overflowing with food of different kinds and drinks of at least 7 different varieties. The most prominent dessert, however, was a 3-layer cake sitting under 2 banners that Naruto couldn't read, but his face decorated one banner, and a big smiling face and Twilight's was displayed on the other one. Fortunately for the boy, Twilight read them both for him. They say, "Welcome to Ponyville, Naruto, and welcome back, Twilight." Pinkie was soon up in their faces. So do you like it? Naruto was having a sensory overload. He knew that ponies here in Equestria were nice, but he didn't realize just how far some of them were willing to go for a stranger. He asked for Twilight to help him down, which she was happy to do. The little boy then proceeded to embrace the pink party pony and cry a little. "Thank you, Auntie Pinkie Pie." The rock farmer daughter's expression changed from excited to compassionate and returned the hug. "You're welcome," the mare replied before readopting her enthusiastic face. "Now enough with the sad faces. It's time to party!" This got a rise out of everyone present, and the welcome to / welcome back party swung into full gear. Naruto was introduced to a whole variety of different sweets. Cupcakes, lemon bars, brownies, ice cream, but to Pinkie's pure delight he found his favorite in the chocolate cake. To Twilight's delight he was able to personally meet some of the faces from around Ponyville. He was introduced to the cakes, along with their children Pumpkin and Pound. There was also Scootaloo, Sweetie Belle, and Apple Bloom, all of whom took to Naruto rather quickly. There was even Starlight Glimmer, who told Twilight that the furniture company wouldn't be able to deliver till later that week. Eventually Naruto found Twilight talking to a couple of older mares. "Ah, Naruto, there you are. Are you enjoying yourself?" "Yes, Mama. Auntie Pinkie Pie threw us a great party." With a smile and a motion of her wing, Twilight drew the human child close to her. "I am glad you are having a good time." All of a sudden a chair that a pony was sitting on came to life. To Naruto's amazement, the chair started walking away with its occupant. At first the gray Pegasus sitting on it was confused until she decided that the walking chair was fun and started laughing. Naruto could only look on in confusion. "What is dash?" "Twilight!" A new male voice. "I'm so glad to see you safe and sound." The new voice came from above the party, and all eyes turned to look. Naruto's eyes widened in surprise at the creature before him. It was a hodgepodge of different animals with horns and wings and a long serpentine body. Said being was just floating in midair, without any effort from his wings. "Discord, where have you been?" Fluttershy asked with a semi-stern. Now named Discord looked at the usually timid mare and shrugged. "The same thing that every pony else was doing, looking for Twilight. However, unlike the rest of you, I was looking in other worlds. Without knowing which world she may have ended up in, I had to search them one by one." Discord disappeared in a flash of white light only to reappear next to Fluttershy. "And that My Little Pony takes a while to do." He then teleported next to the new family. "So Twilight, just where were you?" Discord trailed off when he got sight of Naruto. "Oh my, so what they are saying is true. A human has finally returned to Equestria." The brief silence that followed was broken when Twilight cleared her throat. Did I hear you correctly, Discord? You said, returned to Equestria, correct?" "Oh, indeed, Twilight. There was a time that quite a few humans, or human look-alike, roamed Equestria alongside the pony. Of course, that was when I was a very young spirit of chaos, barely old enough to change a cloud into cotton candy." "Well then, what happened to all the humans?" Applejack asked. By now the conversation between the newly established family and Tone, the spirit of chaos, had drawn the attention of every pony in attendance. To the farm mare's question, Discord shrugged. "No one really knows what happened to them, Applejack. One day they all just disappeared. Before they did, however, I was gifted something that has come in handy." Without being asked what the gift was, Discord took his talon hand and sliced open a rip in time and space. Looking into it, one couldn't see past the swirling blue mist inside the portal, but everyone got the idea. "The power to travel dimensions," Discord clarified in his deep, somewhat menacing voice. With a snap of his fingers the rift closed and Discord's mood changed. "Oh, but where are my manners? I haven't introduced myself to the little angel." Discord got down low till he was at Naruto's eye level. The two gazed into each other's eyes for a good minute. Naruto could feel the mismatched eyes of the intimidating but silly being in front of him bore down into his young soul. Finally Discord broke the contest and smiled even larger than before. "Hello, little one, I am Discord." The being of disharmony reared back and made an enormous neon sign that looked like it came right out of Lost Pegasus appeared out of nowhere, flashing the name, Discord. The little boy and Naruto started acting up. To the sudden appearance of the sign and the showmanship, Naruto's eyes lit up like stars. "That is so cool! Discord heard the boy's compliment and teleported beside him, pulling him in for a side hug. I'm glad that you think so, my boy. I can tell that you're really going to shake things up here in Equestria, and I like change. With another series of flashes, he appeared on the other side of Twilight. You certainly know how to pick them, don't you, Twilight? And knowing you, you'll be earning Mother of the Year in no time. With a snap of his talons, a white flash appeared around Twilight. When it disappeared, Twilight was wearing a t-shirt that said, World's Best Mom, across the front. A few ponies laughed at Discord's antics but then let out a nah when they saw that Twilight was not the only one to be on the receiving end of Discord's playful shenanigans. For now Naruto was dressed in a white shirt that read, I love my mama! Even though he couldn't read what was printed on his shirt, the sudden direction of attention made him feel slightly embarrassed at his current state. Naruto hid himself against his mother. The party went on for a while longer until it was time for Naruto to go to bed. Of course, since he didn't have his own yet, Twilight offered to share with him, or he could use the room that was set aside for shining armor. Naruto decided that he wanted to share, at least for that night. So it was that Naruto was found sitting on the bed in his pajamas waiting for his adopted mother to return. He didn't have long to wait before Twilight came in, levitating a book beside her. Well, Naruto, did you have a good time at Pinky's party? The little blonde nodded enthusiastically. Yep. Best party ever. We will be sure to write her a thank you note for giving us a party on such short notice. No. Twilight moved the sheets back and allowed Naruto to climb in before she did the same. Are you comfy? She asked her foal. Naruto adjusted himself until he was in the crook of her wing and firmly pressed against her. Twilight delighted in the closeness that her son wanted. He really did fill the hole that Flash Sentry's disappearance had caused, just with a different kind of love, the love of a family. Twilight pulled the covers over them with her magic and cracked open the book to the first page. I thought you might like a little story about one of Equestria's founders. Her name was Clover the Clever. Twilight went on to read from the book that was designed to help foals understand some of the history behind the founding of Equestria. Probably not the most exciting read in the world for a child, but her library was lacking in enjoyable fiction outside of the Daring Do series, which was just a bit out of the range that she wanted Naruto to start reading at. After about 15 minutes, Twilight could feel the gentle rhythmic breathing of her child against her. Twilight set the book aside and dimmed the lights before leaning into Naruto. She didn't know what she did to earn such an honor as being a mother, but she was so grateful for the chance. Unbeknownst to the loving family, there was someone watching them. On the cliff behind the castle, the man in the metal mask watched the interaction between the two through a small tear in time and space. You know that some might find this a violation of privacy, a voice said from behind him. The man quickly dispelled the rift before addressing the one that had spoken. If this were your project, wouldn't you be interested in how it is going? He asked. Turning around, the man came face to face with Discord. Oh, you're probably right, old friend. Still in the game, I see, Discord observed. It always was and always will be my game to play Dizzy, the man retorted. And now you bring Twilight onto the board. I warn you that she is a friend. I will not have her manipulated. Such fierce loyalty to your friends, Discord? You have changed so much since we last ran together. But do not fear, my intention for Equestria and your friend are pure, and my methods are to benefit those who I meddle with. So Naruto, is he? Yes, Discord, he houses one of the 9-tailed beasts. It is an unfortunate but necessary fact. How is having a beast that has enough power to flatten an entire city a necessary thing? It will be made clear in time, as are all things. For now, though. The man made another gesture and opened the rift again to watch the new Sparkle family, as they dreamed happily beside each other. It is time to enjoy life's greatest treasures. The next morning in the city of Canterlot broke with great relief for the ponies that lived there. The return of the Princess of Friendship had been announced the previous night by the royal sisters. With contentment, 2 unicorns, Twilight, Velvet, and Nightlight, were eating breakfast. It had been a full week since they had been able to eat a meal without feeling concerned for their missing daughter. I think we should go to Ponyville next week. Make sure that she is all right, Velvet suggested. Nightlight nodded. That would be a good idea. We hardly ever get to see Twilight these days. A sudden knock on the door summoned Nightlight from the table and to the front entry to their home. Hardly any time passed before he returned with a letter levitating beside him. It's a special delivery from Twilight. Velvet was relieved to hear from her daughter so soon. At least she had the decency to write with updates, unlike Shining Armor, who had a tendency to wait until the last minute to share what was going on in his life. Breaking the seal on the envelope, Nightlight began to read. Dear Mother and Father, I am so sorry to make you two worry. This time the trip into another dimension was not planned. This time? Velvet asked. Don't you remember her telling us about that realm full of those creatures called humans? Oh right, from when she had to get her crown back. Precisely. Anyways, Nightlight continued. I ended up in a strange new world. Not the one I went to before, but a completely different one. There were humans there, but they could do something close to magic by manipulating energy within their body. Well, while I was there I met this colt. No, Mother, not in that way. I am talking a foal. I do not know how, but he has both his world's power within him and equestrian magic. Even more strange is that he has the power of the elements of harmony residing in him. Mom, Dad, he was living in the worst conditions imaginable. He was treated badly for something that was out of his control, and his fellow villagers called him despicable things. So, I have taken him as my own foal. She what? Velvet exclaimed as she nudged her husband aside to read over his shoulder. When she read the section for herself, the rest of the letter was disregarded as the mare charged up the stairs to her bedroom. Nightlight soon followed to find his wife throwing stuff together into a suitcase. I guess that trip to Ponyville just jumped up in priority. Meanwhile, back at the Castle of Friendship, Twilight was having breakfast with Naruto, and going over the day's itinerary with Spike. Alright, letter to my parents was sent out earlier today, so that is done. We also are going to go by Rarity Shop to see if we can't get Naruto outfitted with some new clothes, then to the bookstore to pick up some story books. Also on that priority list is to go to the schoolhouse and talk to Miss Cheerily about getting Naruto in school next year. Why are you waiting so long, Twilight? Shouldn't he get involved as soon as he can? Spike, I am not going to throw Naruto into school when he knows very little about Equestria. I am also waiting a year to help him learn how to read Equestrian. We may have many things in common between our worlds, but the language he was taught to write in is not one of them. If he is going to survive in both worlds, then he needs to be able to write both ours and his native language. Fair enough. One more thing on your list for tomorrow, visit from PC and SS. Twilight, does that mean? Oh dear, that's right. I have Sunset Shimmer and Princess Celestia coming for tea tomorrow. Spike, can I count on? I'll work on it while you're shopping with Naruto. Thank you, Spike, you are a lifesaver. Both native equestrians looked at Naruto, who was fervently digging into a plate full of pancakes. Naruto, slow down. If you eat too fast you will make yourself sick, Twilight reprimanded. Naruto immediately stopped and hung his head in shame. Sorry, Mama. Twilight's heart melted at his pathetic, sad face. With a gentle hoof she raised his head. Hey, it's too early for sad faces. I'm only worried that you will be too sick for all the things that we are supposed to do today. Naruto nodded. Alright, I understand, Mama. With a kind smile, Twilight kissed his forehead, which got a giggle out of the young blonde human and a groan from the dragon. The door to the dining room opened up to show a familiar cyan Pegasus. Hey Twilight, hey Spike, hello Squirt. Rainbow Dash greeted. Good morning, Auntie Rainbow Dash, what brings you here this early? Naruto asked eagerly. The boy got down from his place at the table and bolted over to give his winged aunt a hug. I had early morning weather team today, the mare replied with a groan, but she still returned the affection that her new nephew showed her. So to brighten my morning I thought I'd come and see how my little nephew was doing. That was nice of you, Rainbow Dash. Would you like a bit of breakfast? Twilight offered. Needing no further encouragement, Rainbow Dash somehow made it over to the table carrying Naruto in a hug and took a seat, her eyes looking hungrily at the spread on the table. So breakfast resumed with a Pegasus joining in the meal. The family plus Rainbow took this time to talk a bit about what Rainbow Dash did for the town. He found it fascinating that the ponies in Equestria were in charge of making sure the weather happened. Rainbow Dash even promised to take Naruto up to Cloudsdale one day to show him around the weather factory. Twilight made the duo that seemed to feed off of each other's need for all things awesome promise that before they tried going to the weather center that they made sure that the cloud walking spell worked for Naruto. After the human and ponies were finished with breakfast, Spike cleared the plates. The Maras with human in tow proceeded to the town of Ponyville. So what's the first stop? Rainbow Dash asked. Rarity's boutique. She should have the skills to make clothes for a non-pony body. Rainbow's eyes widened in fear. I just remembered I've got a lot to do at home. Late summer cleaning. Later squirt. With that, Rainbow was off like a shot, leaving a rainbow trail behind her. Why didn't Rainbow want to go to Auntie Rarity's shop? Naruto asked from beside Twilight. The alicorn laughed at the memory. You see, Naruto, a couple weeks ago Rainbow Dash was practicing some new tricks when she lost control. Rainbow ran into Rarity while she was trying out a new dress and ruined the gown she was wearing. Rarity swore that if Rainbow Dash ever stepped into her shop she would use your athletic aunt as a model for a new line of dresses. Rainbow Dash has done everything she can to avoid the boutique ever since. Naruto laughed at his aunt's expense. The laugh only got louder when he thought of the ever-active Rainbow Dash being used as a fashion model. His laughter brought his gaze up to the clouds above him, more specifically the occasional Pegasus that flew by. Deep within his heart a yearning awoke. He wanted to fly. Naruto, what's wrong? Twilight asked, taking notice of the way his laugh tapered off, not at all like his usual laughter. Deciding to be honest, Naruto responded. Mama, do you think that I'll ever be able to fly one day? This caught Twilight by surprise. What do you mean, sweetie? Well, Then he pointed up at the Pegasi. I feel like I belong up there with them. Twilight thought hard on the subject, then nodded to herself. Well, I don't know if you will be able to ever fly on your own, but I will definitely take you flying soon. Of all the things that Twilight had planned to do with Naruto, she had hardly ever considered flying as one of the things to do. Certainly wasn't an option in Konoha. Too many potential security risks. Here, though, was another story. Their journey came to an end inside Rarity's elegant shop. Already the white unicorn was hard at work at an extravagant dress. One moment, I'm in the zone, as it were, Rarity said, not even looking back at who it was that just walked into her shop. With a quick flourish with her needle, she attached the last threaded gem in place. Now, what can I do for? She then caught sight of her best friend and her son. Oh, Twilight! Good morning. Rarity then came over and gave the little human a hug. And good morning to you as well, darling. Good morning, Rarity. Twilight responded. I take it that the little darling here is here for a new wardrobe? If you have the time, Twilight clarified. Oh, of course I have time. Now, Rarity summoned a measuring tape over to her, and with fire in her eyes that scared the child, she said, Let's get to work. The next half an hour were the hardest for Naruto's active young mind and body. He was forced to stand still as Rarity took measurements, asked questions about preference, and held different color swatches up to him. Soon she was in her back room toiling away on the new attire for the boy. While they waited for the prototype of Rarity's biped line of fine fashion, Twilight started giving Naruto his first magic theory lesson. Just as they started to get to a practical portion, Rarity came back with a set of colored t-shirts and pants. Naruto was then forced to try them on and model for his creative aunt and mother. The fashionista made notes and asked questions on how the clothes fit. After the hassle of standing there buffering the storm of questions, Naruto left the store grateful to his aunt for the nicest clothes that he had ever had. The bookstore was put on hold until after a visit to the schoolhouse. As they got closer to the school, the duo became aware of the sound of laughing and the raised voices of foals. Oh, it must be recess, Twilight observed. What's recess? Naruto asked from where he sat on her back. Recess is a time during the day when children are allowed to go outside and play. It's a great time to make friends. Did you make a lot of friends when you were a kid, Mama? Naruto could see Twilight's face fall. Well, when I was a filly, I wasn't good at making friends. I really didn't know how important friends were back then. I had my older brother Cadence, my parents Spike, and a few others, but back then I was more interested in my books and learning than I was in making friends. It wasn't until I came to Ponyville that I actually learned how important it is to have friends. Twilight became very serious and looked back at Naruto. Naruto, can you promise me something? What is it? Never pass up on an opportunity to make a true friend. While learning and books are good, if you don't have friends, then life is empty. The worst thing about it is that you don't even realize that you are hurting inside. So please, Naruto, don't make the same mistakes that your mother made. Make friends and become a well-rounded person. Naruto was surprised by Twilight's request. He heard her story about the Summer Sun Festival of years past when she first came to Ponyville, but he didn't know that she had almost discounted friendship when she was younger. The little human leaned in and hugged his mother's neck. I promise, Mama. I promise that I will never pass on an opportunity to make a true friend. And Naruto Uzumaki never breaks his promises. Twilight fought back a tear of pride. She knew that she had nothing to worry about for her son's future. He was going to be a great man and a great son. She leaned back into the hug Naruto was giving her and lightly muzzled him the best she could from that angle. The two finally broke, and shaking tears from their eyes they resumed their journey to the school. When the school came into perfect view, so did the source of the cacophony. Some of the foals were running around playing tag where others were enjoying a play set. It really looked fun, but Naruto was also scared. The kids back in the village never let him play with them, nor did their parents. He hoped, no, he silently pleaded to whatever divinities might exist in Equestria that he might have a chance here. As the princess approached, the playing foals all paused and looked at her. A moment of silence followed until Princess Twilight! Then it was pandemonium as the fillies and colts rushed in and crowded the lavender alicorn. She was peppered with questions and invitations to play until a commanding voice from behind the mob sounded. All right, every pony back up. The young ponies split up, allowing the teacher Ms. Cheerily to pass through. Good morning, Princess. What can we do for you this morning? The kind school teacher asked. Well, I wanted to speak to you about getting my foal Naruto. Twilight motioned to her passenger. Enrolled here starting next year. With a smile, the teacher responded. Of course. Why don't we leave the foals to get to know each other while we work out the details? Twilight got down low to let Naruto off. Will you be fine for a while, honey? Twilight asked the blonde. To be honest, he would rather stay with Twilight where he knew it was safe, but he remembered the promise he just made and his own desires to make friends. I think I'll be fine, he responded, getting a hug of encouragement in response. This may take the whole of recess. Be good, Twilight said as she trotted after the older teacher. The crowd of ponies stood in silence looking at the nervous human. One could hear the imaginary clock tick, that is until a colt wearing a stylish black hood that hid most of his body but left a cheery dark blue face plain to all the world. Hi there, my name's Midnight Crescendo. What's your name? Gathering up his courage, Naruto responded. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. My adopted mother is Twilight Sparkle. I am a human. Midnight grinned at this. Finally, it's nice to finally get some more non-ponies around here. What do you? Midnight reached up and pulled down the hood, and Naruto's eyes went wide. Instead of regular pony ears, these ears were aimed more like a human's and angled to a fine point. You see, I'm a siren. We are a different race that inhabits Equestria. My species is able to use different forms of music and sound to channel magical abilities. My family primarily uses our voices. That's pretty cool. From that first introduction, the colts and fillies were no longer nervous about this human in front of them, and any anxiety that Naruto felt melted away as well. Soon enough, the assembled adorable mob was showing Naruto how to use the play equipment and how to play different games. It seemed all too soon when Twilight and Miss Cheerily exited the schoolhouse, a bundle of registration papers tucked into Twilight's saddle bag, and called out to her child. All right, Naruto, we have to go. The foals plus human let out a collective groan of disappointment. It was then that one of the fillies approached the adults and asked very sweetly. Princess Twilight, would it be alright if Naruto came back to play soon?" The big pleading eyes of the little filly tore Twilight's heart apart. Then she made the mistake of looking at her son, surrounded by the foals, and for the umpteenth time since she first met Naruto her heart broke a little. Only his first full day here, and in the space of a half hour he had made more than a dozen new friends. Looking over at the teacher, Twilight asked, "Do you mind if we came back during recess another day, Miss Cheerily?" The teaching mare surveyed the scene and nodded. "I have no problem with it." A cheer came up through the young assembly. After a moment of jubilation, Twilight collected Naruto and levitated him securely onto her back. With a last few goodbyes to Naruto's new friends, the two headed back into the main part of town. "So Naruto, did you make lots of new friends today?" "Oh yeah, I did, Mama." He then proceeded to recount all the colts and fillies that he had met during that brief recess period and the games they had played. Twilight was so proud of him, she made a mental note to pick something special up for him next time she traveled to the elemental nations. The two's talk was suddenly interrupted by a loud blaring whistle. "What was that?" Naruto asked. "That was the Friendship Express. It sounds like it is getting ready to pull into Ponyville Station. Would you like to go watch?" Naruto had expressed some interest in trains when they were still in the hidden leaf, so he was a little eager to see one on action. So with a quick trot, Twilight got the two of them to the station in time for the train to arrive. Naruto quivered in awe at the mechanical monstrosity that was still warm and inviting. He was pulled from his musings of the train when his mother suddenly exclaimed, "Mom? Dad?" Twilight didn't know how to feel at the moment. She supposed that the best way to describe it was anxiety mingled with joy. Her parents were standing at Ponyville Station unannounced. She had hoped to have at least a week before having this confrontation, but now things were happening fast. It was Naruto that brought her out of her panic state. "Mama, who are they?" he asked, watching the two unicorns make their way towards them. Shaking herself free of her stupor, she responded, "Naruto, these are Twilight Velvet and Night Light. They are my parents." She felt some reservation in introducing them as his adopted grandparents. She didn't know their opinion on the matter. The mare suddenly felt her heart rate elevate when her passenger slid from her back and ran forward to the older ponies. "Naruto, wait!" But the bundle of energy was already putting his arms around Twilight Velvet. "Hi, Grandma! I'm Naruto!" The shock was apparent on her parents' faces. The boy then extended the same greeting to his new grandpa. The two elder ponies exchanged looks of surprise before Night Light caught the little boy up in a hug. "Well, hello, little guy. I'm your grandpa Night Light, and this lovely mare next to me is my wife Twilight Velvet. She is your grandmare. But I suppose you already know that?" "Come on, Night, stop hogging the hugs," Twilight Velvet reprimanded, butting into the embrace and encompassing the blonde in a hug of her own. Relief washed over Twilight seeing her parents react to Naruto in such a way. She sighed and walked over to her child. "Mom, Dad, allow me to introduce Naruto Uzumaki. He's the colt from my letter. And he is just plain adorable, Twilight," her mother told her. "Perhaps we should head to the castle? I'm sure the little guy is hungry," Night Light suggested. As if right on cue, Naruto's stomach let out a loud growl. His embarrassment solicited a round of laughter from all present, minus Naruto, of course. On the edge of the everfree forest there resides a quaint cottage surrounded by different animal shelters. The occupant of said cottage is none other than the kind Fluttershy. Here she tends to her animal friends and helps the animals of the everfree recover when they are injured before they return to their homes in the forest. Today the butter-yellow Pegasus was helping a new addition to her care. Earlier that morning a vixen had come pawing at her door, in need of a place to stay and very ready to deliver a litter of fox kits. Now there was a new litter of baby Goxes taking up residence in the corner of her cottage, with a very frightened Angle Bunny hiding upstairs from his natural predator. Of course, Fluttershy's attention was on the newborns and their nursing mother. Fluttershy had taken the liberty of draping a small blanket over the new family and was checking if the new mother. "Is there anything else that you need, Mrs. Fox?" the kind mare asked. The vixen shook her head with a content look on her face. "Oh, good." Then Fluttershy's expression fell. Concerned, the vixen barked at her. I'm all right, Mrs. Fox. I have a lot on my mind. Curious, the fox's expression asked the mare to explain. Well, my friend Twilight found a child to call her own. I see how much love the two have for each other, and I guess it makes me kind of jealous. The fox's expression changed again and Fluttershy backed up. Oh no! I could never be angry at her for having something that I don't. It's just that. Well, I think I want a foal of my own. I want to feel the same kind of love, but I don't know if I. A low growl from the she-fox caught her attention. Several minutes passed as the fox lectured her in language only understood by other woodland animals and Fluttershy. When the vixen was done, Fluttershy nodded. Thank you for the advice. I guess I should make an appointment. Taking a pencil in her mouth, Fluttershy left herself a note. Make appointment with doctor. With a feeling of confidence, Fluttershy puffed up her chest. She hadn't felt this resolved about anything for a while. I'm going to do it, she told herself and all the animals that were listening. I'm going to be a mother. And that concludes today's business. Everyone understand what they need to do? The chief secretary of the Hokage asked all the clerks that served the office. They had been reviewing the schedule for the next day. The Hokage had officially ended his day in the office a few hours earlier, but those that served under him had to finish sorting out the approvals and mission requests. Some of these were chunin that were off season of teaching at the academy, but some of them were full-time hired professionals. The group broke apart so they could get to their assignments, heading to their varying offices to file paperwork. One clerk, Kenshiro Yakamoto, was the last one to enter his dark office space. He entered the darkened room and flipped the switch. When the lights didn't come on, he came to attention. Trying the light switch a couple more times, he closed the door and looked to the dark space. I thought we were finished, Kenshiro said into the darkness. Seemingly from nowhere, an orb of light came into existence and illuminated the man in the mask sitting on the desk that occupied most of the room. When he didn't say anything, Kenshiro continued. You said that if I presented the village council with that excerpt from an all-but-forgotten law that you would leave me alone. No more contact until Naruto was much older. That I could live something close to a normal life. The man in the mask finally spoke after Kenshiro said this. There has been a complication. There are forces plotting to kill you, Kenshiro groaned. And I have my involvement with you to thank for that. You volunteered to join up with me. You have no one to blame but yourself for accepting my initial deal for power. Yeah, some power. All the good that's come from it is being stuck behind a desk playing faithful clerk while you and everyone else is out running around having grandiose adventures. We all play a part, Kenshiro. Many of the others consider yours the hardest role to play. You have to deceive everyone around you into thinking that what they see is what is really who you are. Shaking his head at his superior's stubbornness, Kenshiro got back to the original topic. So just who is it that is out to get me? Mostly Danzo and his men. There isn't any major gain from your death other than a form of petty revenge. They see you as the reason why Naruto is out of their grasps. In other words, you want me to watch my back. I will have something watching you at all times. I'm keeping it in shadow mode until your life is threatened. Kenshi's mind tried to process who or what would want to remain in shadow mode for extended periods. Shadow mode was Dimension Hopper's lingo for being in a world but not fully there. It was like being invisible and intangible at the same time, however your view on the world was distorted as well. The experience of shadow mode drove most insane, to have someone in there constantly. Just who or what are you keeping there? Pray that you never have to find out. With that, the orb of light vanished and the office's overhead fixtures turned on. With the room illuminated again, just as Kenshiro expected, the man in the mask had vanished. Letting out a sigh, Kenshiro moved to his desk and started working on his tasks. Other people thought his job was hard. Tedious was more like it. At that moment, Hiruzen Sarutobi was making his way through the last place anyone would have guessed, the Uchiha district. Under usual circumstances, he would have summoned the Uchiha Patriarch to his office, but for something like this, Hiruzen wanted to show his earnestness in the request. He also wanted to give the family a sense that they were in some degree of power by meeting them on his home turf. He could feel a degree of hostility from the members of the clan watching him. Hopefully what he would do today would defuse the situation that was growing in the village. Finally, he reached the house he was looking for. He knocked and a short while later Mikoto answered the door. Lord Hokage! What brings you here? Good evening, Mikoto. Could I speak with you and your husband? Of course, please come in. Mikoto led the Hokage into the family room where she invited the aged leader to sit while she went to retrieve her husband. Hiruzen reviewed his plan. Hopefully this would not only further what they could expect from Naruto, but also diffuse the tension between one of the founding clans and the rest of the village. It was a few moments before the two returned and took sitting positions across from him. Fugaku was as stoic-faced as ever. Lord Sarutobi, what brings you to my home? He asked politely. However, the Hokage could tell that there was some of the resentment within him that was building as the distrust of the clan grew. Fugaku, I was wondering if you would be interested in a proposition. It is in regards to your son, Itachi. This made the patriarch raise an eyebrow as the student of the first two Hokages continued. Within the next week or two I expect Princess Twilight Sparkle to return from her homeland with one of the diarchy that governs her land. We will establish a trade agreement to fully legitimize Twilight's adoption of Naruto. As part of that agreement I will insist on a Konoha influence within her homeland. Something to ensure that the village's best interests are met. As part of this presence, I was hoping that you would permit Itachi to join them. The request took the parents of said ninja by surprise. Surely Lord Hokage you could just give him this as an assignment, seeing as he is one of the village's ninja. Fugaku commented, not seeing the bigger scheme that Hiruzen was playing at. Indeed I could. Itachi is a fine ninja. Skilled, loyal, everything that a leaf ninja should be proud of. There is but one skill he is lacking though for the plans I have for the future. I hope that by having him play a part in the land of Equestria he will fulfill two roles. The first will be to mentor Naruto in the shinobi arts. Help the boy establish the basics of what he needs to know once he comes to the academy. Princess Twilight all but begged for someone to teach Naruto since she very well could not. And the second? Mikoto asked. I want Itachi to learn how to play in an international theater. To learn the rules of diplomacy and how to help your country and people get ahead. Why would you want? Fugaku started but then realized the ramifications. Seeing that the father understood Hiruzen confirmed it. I want Itachi to become my successor. Evening was descending upon Equestria. Soon Celestia would set the sun to rest and Luna would raise the moon. Twilight and her family were enjoying this time at the park. Earlier that day Twilight's parents got the full story of what happened in the elemental nations, and were now enjoying a surprise picnic dinner in the cool of the evening. Nightlight and Naruto had been playing a game of catch. The game however quickly dissolved into a game of keep away. Unfortunately for Nightlight his new grand colt had a surprising amount of stamina, and the stallion wasn't as young as he once was. So soon Nightlight was breathing heavy and sweating just as heavy. The grandpa collapsed in a comical heap next to his laughing wife, and they watched the new addition to their family play on the nearby swing set with his big bro, Spike, pushing him. You were very lucky to find him, Twilight. Her mother commented watching the boy and the dragon laughing together. Sometimes I wonder if it was more than luck, Mom, Twilight commented. Well, either was that, my dear, Velvet commented pointing to Twilight's cutie mark. She's right, you know, Nightlight said. Even though none of but perhaps the princess knew at the time you were meant to do something great with your life. Now you have a chance to help some pony, someone rather, who might have just as large destiny as you do. For a brief moment Twilight thought back to that dream that had fueled her maternal feelings. A great destiny indeed, she mused to herself. So have you thought of a new name for him? Twilight Velvet asked. This caught Twilight off guard. What? You know, a more pony name. It might help him adjust more to living in a society of ponies. Twilight could see some merit in that, but there was some hesitance. I can see how that might help, but I want to ask Naruto before we commit to a new name. Understandable. Naruto! The adults all snapped their heads back in the direction of the swinging child only to see the swing was empty with the kid nowhere to be seen. Their concern was focused in a new direction when they heard a sharp yelp from the missing child. They looked over to the source of the sound to see Naruto rubbing a sore spot on his face. There was a ball at his feet, and standing behind him were two very startled-looking fillies. Twilight quickly teleported over, and a surge of overprotective mother hit her as she inspected her son. "Are you all right, Naruto? What happened?" "Hey kid! Are you all right?" A young stallion's voice interrupted. A bunch of young Maras and stallions were running over. They were older than Naruto by at least 5 years, and they all wore concerned looks on their faces. "I'm okay," Naruto responded to both interested parties. "I've had worse," he said truthfully. He then turned and looked at the fillies. "Are you both okay?" Twilight recovered from her maternal rush and let herself take in the look of the two fillies, a Pegasus and a unicorn. The unicorn bore a striking resemblance to Fleur-de-Lis in terms of her slim build and mane style. Speaking of her mane and tail, they were a brilliant ruby red with a stripe of orange running through them. Her eyes were burnt orange and had a lovely goldenrod coat, but her flank was blank. The Pegasus, on the other hand, was a very light peach in color. Her mane and tail was cherry blossom pink with a grass-green stripe running through it. Her mane was very wild with a cow lick covering her left eye. To Twilight's surprise, she had a tornado as her cutie mark. The unicorn nodded before she responded. Yes, thank you. Naruto. Twilight switched to a more commanding tone to get every pony's attention. What happened? Oh, well, I saw a ball coming to hit these two fillies and wanted to stop it from hitting them. Next thing I knew, I was standing in the ball's path, and then it hit me in the face. Sorry about that, said the spokesman for the group of older children. One of us hit it just a little too hard and I missed it. Satisfied, Twilight sighed in relief. Well, just as long as there was no ill intent, Twilight stated as she levitated the ball back to the group. The group apologized and went back to playing their game. Naruto turned his attention back to the fillies. Hi, weren't you at the school earlier? The unicorn nodded. Yeah, I'm Charmed Symphony, my friends call me Castor, and this is my friend Spring Twister. Spring Twister looked at Naruto and simply nodded before averting her gaze. Sorry about that, she is a bit shy when it comes to new ponies. Well then she's in luck, I'm not a pony. Naruto and Castor laughed a bit at the funny truth. The next words out of Naruto's young mouth would forever influence Castor's life forever. I like your eyes. Indeed, Naruto did like the color orange that her eyes were. Castor, being a young girl with a liking for love stories, took this a bit deeper than what Naruto may have intended. A blush creeped onto Castor's face. She did her best to hide it. Thanks. I've never really been complimented on my eyes before, she said, flustered. Fortunately for her, Twilight's mind was on other things. Naruto, I think you just teleported, she said, pleased and surprised. We may have to start your lessons sooner than I planned. This got Castor's attention. Lessons? She asked curiously. Yep, Mama is going to teach me how to use my magic, Naruto said enthusiastically. Oh, lucky. I'm going to try to get into Celestia's school for gifted unicorns, but I don't know if Canterlot is the place for me. She leaned in close to Naruto and loudly whispered. My auntie tells me that there are a lot of stuck-up nobles. Twilight was suddenly struck by an idea. You know, I happen to know a pony who was able to go hoof to hoof with me a few years back. I might be able to convince her to give you a few lessons if you want. This caught the young unicorn's attention. Really? That would be amazing. Twilight took stock of the fading light around them. Well, Naruto, we had better get back to the castle. We have another big day tomorrow. Yes, Mama. Naruto then smiled to his new friends. I'll see you both around. Bye. With that, the family departed the park to head back to Twilight's castle. The two fillies watched as the mixed family departed for home. When the group was out of earshot, Spring Twister nudged her friend and said, You're doing it again. Castor shook her head. What? That silly thing with your face. You need to stop turning yourself red. This comment got Castor flustered even more. Well, don't you think he is kind of cute? The blank expression from Twister was all she needed. Of course you're not worried about that. One of the duties that Luna, Equestrian Princess of the Night, took upon herself was to walk the world of dreams and help the ponies while they slept. Tonight she had a special person she wanted to visit though. She had looked last night for the mind of young Naruto Uzumaki, and had only succeeded in finding the door into his mind, but tonight she would one-up on her sister and get to know Equestria's newest and most unique citizen. It was about midnight when she began her dream walking. She immediately went to the child's door and entered. Inside was the most confusing dream that she had ever laid eyes on. It looked like someone had taken Ponyville, carved it in half and slapped it with another town altogether. She could only guess that this second village that fought for space was Naruto's birthplace, Konoha. What made this place even weirder was the fact that the dream was standing perfectly still, frozen in time, and she was the only one unaffected. One other thing. Where's Naruto? Back in Ponyville, Twilight had risen from her sleep feeling the need to get a drink of water. She glanced under her wing to look at a blissfully sleeping Naruto. I'll be right back, sweetie. Giving him a quick kiss on the forehead, she slipped from the bed and covered Naruto with the blankets. As soon as Twilight had left the room, Naruto let out a small whimper as his dreams began to be disturbed by the forces within. Help! A voice rang through the dream plane. The piercing cry was followed by. Luna's ears perked up in the direction that the sound came. Naruto? She asked, then she realized the distress the voice conveyed. Naruto! She hurried into the unfamiliar portion of the dreamscape. Listening for the sound of echoing sobs, she traced it back to a fenced-off section of large trees. Certainly the size of these ancient arbor specimens dwarfed the old and wild everfree that stood around the old castle of Two Sisters. The source of the sound came from somewhere within the trees, so with a powerful bound Luna cleared the fence and took off into the trees. The ancient giants formed a tight canopy overhead, but there were more than a few holes in it to allow light through. Even still, the forest was very dark and foreboding, not at all a place for a child. This made Luna wonder. How did someone so young get such a place such as this in their mind? She asked herself as she continued to hurry through the forest. She burst into a large clearing only to have her hooves submerge into water. Taking a quick stock, she noticed she was now in a bog, but there was something was off about the water. There was a tint of red energy flowing through it. Looking around for Naruto again, she saw him, curled up in a hollowed-out tree stump, sobbing to himself and begging. Someone please, help! The scene broke the dark blue alicorn's heart. As quickly as she dared, she navigated the marshy ground until she was in front of the sobbing child. Naruto? The little boy looked up at the unfamiliar voice and went wide-eyed at who he saw. You're one of the princesses. Luna couldn't help but chuckle. Indeed, little one. We didn't get to really meet when you first arrived. I am Luna, Princess of the Night. It is my duty to, She was taken by surprise by a hug from the child. She had rarely been shown such affection from foals. The last time it was a hug from Flurry Heart, Cadence, and Shining Armor's child. Thank you for coming, Naruto said. He then looked around at the swamp. Where are we? Where's my mother? This is a dream, little one. I possess the power to enter dreams and end nightmares. I wanted to meet you, but the best time for me to do that was while you dreamed. Luna took another look around the bog. Though this is a strange place for a dream. Tell me, do you recognize it? Naruto shook his head. No, princess. Strange. Normally dreams are normally made of bits of memory and our thoughts. But this swamp is not of you. It does not feel like you. Suddenly a rushing wind ripped through the bog, forcing Luna away from Naruto. What's happening? A frightened Naruto asked. You are waking up, little one. I must leave your mind. I will try to see you again in the waking world. With that, Luna disappeared from view and the world bleached out around Naruto. Naruto's eyes snapped open when he felt the weight in the bed shift. In hope, he asked. Mama? Twilight froze in her action before resuming to get back into bed. I'm sorry for waking you, Naruto. Were you having a dream? She asked as her sheltering wing came over Naruto again. Yeah. Do you think Princess Luna ever visits twice in the same night? This got Twilight's attention. Oh, Princess Luna was in your dreams? Yeah, she came and saved me from a bad dream that didn't feel like a dream to her. A dream that didn't feel like a dream? That's odd. What was it about? A swamp with red-colored water. The red stuff made me feel scared until Princess Luna showed up. Twilight resolved to write Princess Luna and get more details on it later, but right now her focus was on Naruto. Think you can fall back asleep? A tiny yawn followed by even smaller snores was her answer. With a quick kiss on the forehead, Twilight joined her son in dreamland. Chapter end.
Now watch daily exclusive and censored lemon stories and mature content, along with NSFW images, featuring harem girls characters from the fics. Access all this and more on my Patreon. Click the link in the description to explore.